Hola! It's great to be back. I missed a week last week. Mr. Mike. Hey, Nick. Nicholas. Can I call you Nick? I'm pumped. I just fixed the old Mamiya RB. God, I'd like to have one of those. RB67. And it's working again after a decade or more. Wow. Still coming up with my story to shoot for the film coming this October. Yeah, come on, get it ready. Let's go. Excited to be back. Body. What do we got going on here? A decent little crowd. Decent little mix of film fanatics. So I'm back, and I have one of my favorite toys with me today. My Cinema Product CP-16. It's one of those cameras that I always wanted. Always. I've had this one quite a while, but I always wanted one, since film school. And I finally got my hands. I've had a few of them now. Well, a couple of them, I would say. Great work. Always like to see old cameras come back to life. Yeah, me too. Good job, Mike. So, I want to show you guys something. Everybody, hey Jeffrey, everybody remembers their first something, right? First car, first kiss, first, you fill in the blank, first everything. But does anybody remember their very first slate? I still have mine. You guys remember these? I mean, it's pretty rickety. Look at this. See the front? It's really rickety. Hey, Remjet. You guys remember these? It's a no frills, just a chalkboard. You write on it, and then if you don't erase it within the first week, it's really hard to erase. This one's getting quite a bit of, the fungies on it. Yeah. I used it a lot. I used it for Super 8 a lot back in the 80s and 90s. But I bet I've had this for 30-ish years. First slate. I don't know why. I was digging stuff out of the closet back there, and I saw it, and I'm like, I remember my first slate. First Super 8 camera. Bell & Howell Filmosonic. How about yours? Bell & Howell Filmosonic. I mean, that's probably half the country or half the world's first Super 8 camera. I don't know. Hey, there's Travis. You broke your first one. What, your slate? Yeah. Yeah, this one's about shot. It's just, I don't even have any chalk. I'm not even positive chalk would stick to that anymore. My wife's in there getting snacks for my other one, for Piper. Hey, there's Bonnie. Hi, Bonnie. I remember my first camera. It was a Kodak M24 Super 8 camera that didn't work then and still don't work. Those little Kodak cameras were tricky, Bonnie. They weren't the best. Hey, there's Radios. Hey, buddy. Let me guess, Radios. Your first camera, a Bauer? No, I doubt it. You said you don't have any Bauers. Kodak Brownie 2. Is that a Super 8 camera, Jeffrey? I don't remember. Or is that a still camera? I buy the cheap ones off Amazon. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the one I use now. Yeah, I mark all my. And yes, I have found film number 56 done. It'll be out Tuesday. But I use these now. Just the Amazon jobs. You see who the director is, always. Right there. That's what I use now. I don't, there's no need to clap it, but I use that when I sync my sound. Yep, I love when YouTube doesn't give notifs. There's something you have to do. I know you got to hit the little bell thing, but then you also have to say all notifications or something like that. I don't know. My first 8mm Kodak Brownie. I was 6. Wow. You're only just a tad bit older than me, Mike. 1966. My brother was born in 1966. 8mm. Is that what that was? Okay, 8mm. I have a Brownie. I think I have. It doesn't work. Most Brownies don't work. But I have one here somewhere, and it is an 8mm, I believe. A Sankyo with a dodgy viewfinder. It was cheap, at least. Yeah, I've had a couple Sankyo Super 8 cameras, and they're so hit and miss. I know Travis uses a Sankyo, similar to what I just did a review on one. I like Sankyo. I don't know. I guess they're kind of like Shinnon-ish, you know. They were the sort of the offshoot for those of us that couldn't afford the Blues or the Canons. First, let's see, Bonnie. First working Super 8 camera I got was the 514 XL. Wow. I'm still awed by that. Is that the one you just got? Didn't you get one recently, Bonnie, for 12 bucks? That's insane. I mean, I thought I got a good deal with mine for 60 bucks. You're not getting them either, Mike, huh? I don't know. I'll have to look. I honestly don't know. I honestly know so little about YouTube. It's a shame, but I always thought you just hit the little bell and it tells you. But I think there are also, I've heard people talk about it before, I think there's also something else you have to do. I think you have to, there's options, all notifications or lives or, I'm not positive, but I think there is something you have to do. Got a big job for my Canon 1214 and oh, nice radios. What do you got going on there? I know I'm going to butcher the name. Is it? I'm going to say Shiven because in the U.S. when there is a vowel and a consonant and a vowel, it would be a long vowel, so it would be I. Shiven. Favorite camera in your collection, or one for every format? That's a good question. I've had that question before. My favorite camera, honestly, we did this a couple weeks ago, was our desert island cameras. Would be, I would have to take my Canon 514 XL in Super 8. 16mm, I can only go by the ones I have. There are others I would rather have, but based on the ones that I have, I would take my, it's over there somewhere, my Aeroflex 16S. And then 8mm, I don't shoot a lot of 8mm, but I'd probably snag a Bolex H16 or H8, only because they take 100-foot loads and they last forever. But I also love these little Bolex Bs. You know, I have 2 or 3 of those 8mm cameras they're awesome. You can't go wrong with 8mm and Bolex. First Super 8 camera actually work. The Bolex 155. The other Super 8 camera I found locally, but they never worked. You know, I have a 150 I just used in my 20 cameras. I also have a 155. Funny you mentioned that, but I do have a Bolex 155, but it does not work. There's my 150 right there. I don't know if you guys are not familiar with those Bolex Supers. They're really cool looking cameras. This is the 150. This is what Radios is talking about. They're funky look. It almost looks like they have a magazine on top of them. Like kind of they mimic the Panaflex cameras a little bit. You guys remember those, right? But you pop them open on the side here, and it just takes, that's where you put your batteries. You put your light meter batteries in here, and your motor batteries in here and here, and then you pop your cartridge face down. This one works pretty well, although it tends to not grab the film properly sometimes. Put that away. I have a double Super 8 camera I got a few months back, but it doesn't have a viewfinder. I got it cheap. It's a Pathé. I'd love to use it. It runs great. It's, you know, you crank it up. But I'm sorry, guys. It's flowing through here. Bonnie says, got my 514 XL, okay, last year, but went back to the same store a few days ago and got another Super 8 camera. You need to keep that store in your radar for sure. Keep that one in your back pocket, Bonnie. My step-grandpa is turning 1. Wow. Wow. Tell him that we all said happy birthday. Turning 100. Hey, Barry. No excuse, Barry. Don't do it again. Well, I'm sorry that you're having problems. So I retract that statement. First 60mm I got was my Umig C-16, then my Siemens 60mm magazine, then my Bolex H. Wow, you got a nice array. That's a really nice array, Bonnie. I don't have a UMIG. I like the C16s. Honestly, I have to tell you, I first got sort of turned on to those C16s when I saw Manny's video. I don't know if he's here right now, but T.O. Manny's World, he did a video on one, and man, are they good looking cameras. I'd love to have one of those C16s. I'm keeping my eye out. I do love the Bolex. I got mine there. You know the camera I got locally? UMIG Chinon. Yeah, Chinons you can find anywhere. I'm digging that CP-16 sitting there. This one I've had for a long time, and it's beautiful. It's a great little camera. Looks like a firearm. Yeah, you want to be careful out and about shooting. Excuse me, shooting those. Yeah. Got a Bolex D8L for 40 bucks. That's a good deal. 2 hours away. You know what, Bonnie? You make the trip when you get those kind of deals, though. I mean, that paid for itself. You could sell that 514 XL for $300 or $400 now. The Bolex 625 is the only Super 8 camera I found locally that actually works. I don't know the Bolex 625. Sounds cool. Others crap down on me. Bonnie is in Europe. Yes. I don't know. That's a good question. Bonnie, are you in Europe? So I want to talk a little bit about the CP-16 today, because it is arguably one of the best entry-level 16mm movie cameras that you can get yourself into. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the movie, it was a documentary called American Movie, and it won something in '96. Not an Oscar, maybe it won Sundance Audience Award or something. Maybe it won an Oscar, I can't remember, but I think it won some awards at Sundance. And it's a great movie / documentary about a guy named Mark Borchardt. And it was at Cannes too, yeah. I definitely was at Sundance too, I believe. But anyway, the whole documentary, the basis of it is this bumbling alcoholic, self-proclaimed, just a big, tall, lanky guy, but loves drinking and loves film and filmmaking and storytelling. And if you haven't seen it, you really should dig it out and find it. But he's working on a movie called Coven. He calls it Coven, C-O-V-E-N, but it's actually pronounced Coven, as we all know. It's sort of the witches' coven. And they actually make fun of him. One of his actors kind of teases him about it, but he insists it's called Coven. But it's his journey throughout. His goal is to make a movie called Northwestern, based on there was an alcoholic theme behind it, and some, Northwestern being the college there, I believe in Wisconsin. But first, before he can get the money to make Northwestern, he has to finish his little 45-minute short film called Coven. And we follow him throughout this documentary and his zany, crazy antics and mouth and all this and drinking and shooting. But the whole thing is shot on one of these. Well, most of it. He does use a Bolex a couple of times, you see, in a car in tight quarters. But he uses the CP-16. And even says it a couple times. You buy a CP-16, you shoot the film, and you're done. I mean, he's a very simple person, but if you haven't seen it, you guys really should go see. I know I went on a sort of a thing with that, but it is such a good movie or documentary. Let's see. Yes, I remember that film. Yes, Mike, good film. There was another film similar to the style of that movie around the same time that I have Buffalo 66. And it's a really good movie. And it's that Christina Ricci, I believe. But that's not a documentary, but it's a really good film. Shivan, yes. It is an awesome film. My late uncle, who passed away last year, that was one of his all-time favorite movies, and he gave me the DVD. DVD, great film. Hey, Pow Pow. Bonnie, yes, it is in the town of Limrad, Limerad in Sweden, and it has about 17 antique slash thrift shops. Note that the whole town is like 1 to 2 kilometers long. Wow, that's crazy. Never seen it. Yeah, it's a good movie, Mike. There's some beautiful shots in Buffalo 66. There really is. It's a crazy movie. CP-16. If you don't have one, get one. There's two schools of thought with these, and there were several variations of the CP-16. Probably the most popular one is the one that's sitting right here. It was the most inexpensive, I think, even at the time. It's still the most inexpensive now of the different models. But for argument's sake, there's two models, really. There's the CP-16A, which is this one. Now, I did a video, a whole breakdown of this camera a while back. Check it out. There's the CP-16A, which is this one, and then there's a CP-16R, which is the reflex one. And I think there's an RA or an AR also. But for all intents and purposes, there's a reflex and a non-reflex. This is a non-reflex, sorta, because the lenses are actually dog-legged. So you do actually see what the lens is seeing. It's just not built into the camera itself. It's built into the lens, which is a little bit less desirable. There's a lot less lens options because this is this weird CP funky mount that kind of overlaps over the top. But for entry-level sync sound, silent sync sound work, you just can't go wrong with this. They do have Super 16 upgrades for these. They're not cheap. This one is just regular 16, so it's just the 4x3 frame, which I'm totally fine with. If you get a good enough scan, you could probably crop it into 16:9 anyway. And I have my K3 that's Super 16 anyway. But I just looked on eBay this morning, and there's one, and now most of the time they're going to be in relatively rough condition, but there's one on there for like $400 right now. There's only, they literally came with like 3, maybe 4 different lenses, and that was it. And usually you bought them with whatever lens you wanted, but that is interchangeable. I even wrote them down. You could get the 9.5 millimeter, the zoom lens, 9.5 to 57, which I had, but I do not. This is the lens that about 80% of them are going to have when you see them for sale. And I'm going to tell you, you guys know which lens that is. I don't even have to tell you. You guys tell me what lens that is. The standard, the classic. Yeah, there's a couple on eBay right now, Bonnie, if you're talking about these. There are a couple. Now, you being in Sweden, I'm not positive, shipping wise. Remember the name of the guy actor? Yeah, I don't remember his name either, Mike. Hey, Ken Knight, I almost said Dark Knight. Hey, Ken. In Australia, we have Real Deals magazine for trading projectors and movies. Various film formats, much cheaper than the internet. Why have I heard of that? I think I've heard of Real Deals. That's pretty awesome. I'd love to go to Australia, by the way. My brother has been several times. I've been looking for a CP-16 for a while, but mostly see them in really, yes. At the moment, my K3 is my own. Nicholas, you're right, and I actually made a note of that. These were really newsreel cameras. They were used out in the field. They were used for, documentaries and news gathering. And when you have a news truck that rushes to a scene and they jump out and they do it and they plug the mics in and and they shoot real quick and they throw the camera back in the truck, and you do that for years and years, and there's different people using them, and most of them are in bad condition. They really are. The good thing is they're relatively easy to kind of restore, especially the non-reflex ones. The reflex ones have a little bit more. They got the little battery that leaks and kills the motherboard or the circuit board. These do not have that battery, and that battery, I can't remember what that's used for, but Travis and I opened his up and we looked, and I've had this open. We don't have that leaking battery in the circuit board. It has something to do with the shoot. Somebody can help me, but that battery has something to do, I believe, with the speeds of the camera. Maybe, I don't remember. But these don't have that. Yes, the Archon Cine. These are based. The movements in these are definitely based on the old Archon or Archon movements. I can't get camera because my 11-year-old MacBook Pro died on Thursday. Yeah, that's not. Those aren't cheap. Pow pow. Aeroflex. Yeah. Well, this is not Aeroflex, but I do have an Aeroflex. Pow pow. Yeah. I have an Aeroflex 16S. We're going to talk about that one of these days on one of these streams too. I have done a video on that on my 16S, and I love it. In fact, if I had to take one or the other, it would be the other. But it's not a sync sound. I do have a sync motor for it, a crystal controlled motor for my Aeroflex, but it is as loud as a blender. Film at 11 cameras. You can get them cheap, Bonnie. Yes, it doesn't surprise me there was one for $350. There's one on there for $400 right now, and it does have a lens. It doesn't have a battery pack, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. I don't think it would be very difficult to build battery packs for these. Some kind of a block that just pushes onto these pins. I'm going to show you the pins in a second. And then wire very easily wire your positive and negative into a little port and just plug in a battery pack to it. The lens. This is the standard 12x120 ingenue lens. It's a 2.2 f2.2 minimum or at its widest. F-stop. It's 2.2 up to 22. It was a very standard lens. Some of them will have the little crank here on the side for zooming in and out. Turn the crank. And the focal length is, or the focus rather, is about 5 feet to infinity, or about 1.5 meters-ish to infinity. What I love most about this camera, I'll tell you a couple things I don't like the most about it, and then I'm going to tell you what I love about this camera. First and foremost, I don't like that you can't change the lenses very easily. You're stuck with the dogleg lenses unless you put a lens on here without a dog leg and guess at what you're shooting at, because you have no way of seeing, which you can't really do because I don't know that they make them for that mount without the dog leg. It's very heavy. I don't know if they intended them to be not only really good quiet cameras but also weapons out in the field. Pow pow. I don't even have to finish reading it. I know exactly the line. Yes, I got to tell you, I'm almost embarrassed to say I've seen that movie at least 100 times. I used to keep it on just to leave it on while I was working or doing things. I find it hard to focus in low light with the viewfinder. It is hard to focus, but I also wish I had the extension on it where you don't have to put your eye all the way out in the front. However, they are, okay, you know what I don't like about them. They're very heavy, very bulky, and unless you maybe make something, oh my goodness, to put on your shoulder, you're putting about 20 pounds of solid steel on your shoulder. Can you imagine being the news person, the camera person, and the lens cap is on, that's why I can't see anything, having to lug this around all day, filming things. I think they had pads that you could add to these, but this is heavy. Hey, Katie. Oh, so yeah, I don't know about, this is absolutely not a good run and gun camera. But when you put it in the same category as like I would put it in somewhere in the same category as the Eclair ACLs or NPRs, and maybe the Aeroflex BL16BL, which is a self-blimped camera. This one's about 1/4 the price of those. Those are really good cameras, and I've seen motion pictures, feature films that were shot on those. But I've seen movies that were shot on these as well. This is not a pin registered camera, which is also another kind of a con, although it's pretty steady. Some people just don't like them. They just don't like these cameras. And I think they don't like them probably because they have the means to shoot with the higher end cameras like an SR or a BL even, or you know, the higher end Aeroflexes or the Atons, those kind of cameras. And if you have the means to shoot on those, well, the lens options are so much more broad, and they're lighter, and they're more ergo, and definitely the Atons. I mean, those, to me, that's probably would be the one 16mm camera that I would take over any. But for the money, I mean, anywhere from, I'm being serious, like Bonnie just said, anywhere from about $300 or $400 up to about $1,500 for these non-reflex ones, for a camera that I can promise you, you're going to have a hard time hearing when it's running, as long as it's been relatively well kept. Now I'm going to show you, and you should always keep the belt off of the magazine when you're not using it. And I'm going to give you a pro tip from a non-pro about where to get belts for these, really cheap. So when you put the belt on, just like that, and you take your battery, now this battery is a 20 volt. These are NiCad batteries. These are old school NiCads. And this is sort of a wonky pack. It's an original. It has been resold, but it was resold in 2005, I believe. Either 5 or 3, I can hardly read it, but I think it was 2005. And the batteries still work pretty well, to be honest with you. But like I say, I don't think it would be that difficult to make a pack. But you can still buy these new. I think White House Audio Visual sells these. So you go like this, see the side, and you just push. And the battery has that little curvature to it right there to fit the curvature of the camera. See how pretty that sits in there? Now, it's quiet. It's running. Let me take the, you have to take the eye cup off to be able to open the door. But look at that. You guys see that? Can you see in there? It's running. Yeah, and now you can hear it now because the door is open. But when you close it, they really are quiet. There is a little bit of sound. So if you were in a completely silent room, now somebody like me that has tinnitus and can't hear anything, it's really not that big a deal to me. But if you're in a completely quiet, could hear a pin drop room, you're probably going to have to throw a blanket over it. But for the most part, for the money, they're hard to beat. They really are. They are super, super quiet cameras. They have a sync light on the side, right here. Essentially what this does, right here, see that red light? When the red light is on, it's not running at a crystal controlled speed of 24 frames per second. When the light is off, you're good to go. See there? Because when it starts up, it's not. But when it gets rolling, it is. Got me? Oh, I'm getting a workout. Whoa, whoa. Got lucky here a few months ago. I got E16. I didn't get any bids, but the month after the site introduced a feature that allowed you to make an offer on anything you did not sell for me. An offer and got my. Oh, that's a good deal. That's a real good deal, Bonnie. I run and gunned it once. My arm was sore for 3 days. Yeah, and it was twice as big too, right? Travis. Oh yeah, it's a pain in the ass, but I put the belt on once you thread and put the mag on. Yeah, and there's a little pin. Once you put this belt on, once you attach this belt to the camera side and not the magazine side, there's no taking it off. There's a pin. You have to actually take the magazine off and sort of work that belt around that pin that's in here, and that's so you don't lose the belt. Hey Rich, what a beast. Is it safe to put on a sturdy tripod? Yes, I built a tripod for this. Well, I built a tripod for jibs because I used to build jibs for a living. But I built a tripod that at the time, I weighed about 240 pounds, 6'1", that I could stand on top of and sort of bounce on. And I built that, and I still have a couple of them to this day. I sold quite a few of them in the company I had. But I can put, yeah, this will definitely mount to that tripod, yeah. Yeah, you remember that tripod. I did a video with the jibs that I had. I wouldn't put it on like a Neewer, one of those cheapo Neewers or a cheapo tripod. I mean, it's going to have to, if you're going to put this on a tripod, make sure the tripod can handle 30 or 40 pounds. Still building my power cables and drive belts. Yeah, it is quiet. It's very quiet, Mike. I love these cameras. So, but here's another downfall. My Aeroflex, you can shoot 100-foot loads in this. Don't get me wrong. The Aeroflex, you don't need the magazine to shoot 100-foot loads. You can put the 100-foot load in the body. This, you cannot. You can only put 400-foot loads. Well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. I've shot 100-foot loads in this camera before, but as you can see in here, you don't load this the way you do an Aeroflex. It doesn't take the daylight spools. And they're tricky to load. Thankfully, they have a diagram in there, but there is a lot of rollers to go through. It also came with a sound head. The sound head is not in this one. You can see, or maybe you can't, but if you look at my other video, I do some close-ups, but there's a pin. There's like a little 4-pin connection down here. And I have the sound head for this, I just took it out. But you just pull it out, unscrew it, take it out. Simple as that. There's no reason for your film to run through a sound head, a magnetic sound head, if you're not shooting magnetic sound film. They don't make it anymore. Though I do have a couple rolls of it. But my point is, if you're going to shoot film with this camera, you have to put the magazine on it. It would be nice if you didn't, because it would save some, some space and some weight. But you can put the 100-foot daylight spools right in here. In these magazines, you push and turn counterclockwise. Push, and okay, these cameras will take the old Mitchell 16mm cameras. Remember, they look like Mickey Mouse ears. They're all metal, and they unscrew each. It's like a big screw. It's like a big plate that screws on, and you take it off. I used to run those on this camera, but I don't like them. These are so much easier. And you got this side right here, and once you load, by the way, this is where your full reel goes, your feed reel, and then this side is your take up. So once this is in, you're relatively safe. You got to run it through here, bring it to the back, and put your, if you're using 100-foot daylight, you put your daylight spool here, you thread it on, you're good to go. And you can leave this side closed, and then the rest you could do in the dark. I mean, in the light right here. If you're using a daylight spool, you could do most of it in the light anyway, although it's best in dim light. If you're using 400 feet, you definitely want to do this in the dark, at least this side. And what I do is I'll load the whole magazine in the dark, and then run it through, and then attach it to the core on this side, and then you can pull a little bit out and leave it, because the bottom of the magazine down here should be light proof. Now, to release the magazine, there's a little slide here on the bottom, a little pin right there. It's like a little flat, and you push it in, and you pop the back up, like so. See, there's little rollers right there. See that? There's a little roller here, and a little roller here, and a little roller in here. 2 on each side, and the film goes in between those felt lined rollers into your magazine. And these are great, really lightweight PLC-4A magazines. And they're pretty inexpensive. If you keep an eye out, you can pick these up for 40 or 50 bucks a piece. Good little magazines. And you always want to keep a couple on hand. But once you got the magazine off, as you can see, you're wide open. See there? You exposed everything inside the camera. So they made these throat covers like this. This is a throat cover. The problem with mine is it's missing the little pin on this side, so it doesn't snap in. But it basically goes in just like the magazine, and it plops down. But mine is missing the pin. You're supposed to be able to push, and it snaps in place. Now I could probably just put, I don't know, a little screw in there or something to work it, but or I could just put a little piece of tape around it to hold it down. Just all it does. You would never have film in the camera, obviously, because you can't. So all it does is protect stuff from getting down in there. Now I want to show you what I was talking about. See here? It's going to be kind of hard to see, but like I say, I do have a video on this. If you look right there, there's a little pin. See if you guys can see that little pin. Can you see it? I know you can. Right there. Your belt is behind that pin, so it doesn't just come off your roller like that. It won't just pop off. You got to really work it, which, like I say, is probably a good thing because you're not going to lose it. Probably about time to replace this belt. And you probably shouldn't be rolling it the way I'm doing it right now either, because that's attached to the motor. Okay, the handle. There's a couple of on-off switches on this too. There's one up here on the handle, and there's one in the back, the main power switch in the back. Doesn't do single frame. It doesn't really do anything except turn on and run at 24 frames per second. Now, some of them did have variable speeds. This one does not. These right here are your two 3-pin XLR mic inputs, because you would wired mics, and then you have your controls back here, your audio controls, all right here. You control each mic independently. The levels, the inputs, everything was really cool. All right, where am I at? Let's see, 78 HR parts. Oh, I remember that one from Does anyone make an audio optical sound head? I wish they did, Barry. I don't know of any. Yeah. Somebody was emailing me, Barry, recently. I don't remember. They wanted to do 16 millimeter showings with optical audio separate. Project, and then the audio, you would be able to hear the audio optically. It's a little beyond my pay grade. Hey, there's Manny. I was just talking about you earlier. Howdy, Mike. What a beast of a camera that is. You used them back in the 90s. Yeah, these things are amazing. I love these things. Was surprised when I got my H16, as I thought it would be much bigger. No, they're not very big. I mean, you can outfit them, but yeah, I love them. Oh, my little, where is it? Right there. I have a couple more of them up here, but they need work. They're non-reflexes, an H8 and an H16. Get on it, Mike. The Mitchell mags. Yeah, you had a couple of those too, Travis. I remember. Travis brought his CP-16 over, and we disassembled it on one side, and we changed out his belts. And what else did we fix? Oh, we fixed something in the handle, and I feel like we fixed something else inside, but I don't remember, and then it runs great. Like I say, for basic stuff, these cameras, you can do most of it yourself. Collimating the lens and things like that, you want to get it done by somebody. The stereo. Bystanders love a stereo when you're shooting with them. Yeah, I know. You don't know how many I've gotten the, oh, that's a cool camera, no matter what I'm using. The Aerocon, well, we use more, but that was a nice option. Quiet enough, blimped, it's perfect. Yes, you know, and I had a couple. I think I had two Aerocon Pro 600 cameras years ago, and those actually used. They recorded optical audio, if I'm not mistaken. light, where you use light to record the audio instead of magnetic. Wish I still had at least one of those, but I don't. And I know you can get them pretty cheap still. Still have trouble finding the orientation of the feed side without. Yeah, I know. But that's okay. Just run it once and then you know. Have you seen Oppenheimer yet? I have not seen Oppenheimer, Bonnie. Good? Take up side, I meant, not feed. Yeah, I know. You got take up sides in the back, right? No, now you got me confused. Feed side, take up side. Yeah, in the back, right? Yeah. So these take, these have a funky, this is an aftermarket one, but they have a funky little battery charging system if you guys have never seen them before. Like I say, the batteries are, they're just like these bricks, and then there's a little pin right here that you push in, and then you push the back of the battery, and this one fits in there pretty tight, and you pop it out. Yeah. But see, this is a box, it's kind of getting open, and it just has two, can you guys see those two little holes right there? The bottom of the battery pack. You could probably 3D print these, I don't know, maybe not, they are kind of thin. But to charge that, it's such a unique little system. It uses this little funky little end piece right here. Look at that. It's just got two pins. You guys see those pins? Oh, they're kind of hard to see. But you plug this brick in, and then, like I say, this is an aftermarket one from White House Audio Visual. And then you just take this and you pop it in. Pins into the holes. Boom. That's how you charge your battery. It just kind of sits there, just like so. And the funny thing is, this battery charger, it doesn't turn off when I'm charged, so it's hard to know. Hopefully it doesn't overcharge. But like I say, I'd love to make my own battery pack for this and maybe use not NiCad batteries, nickel metal or something like that, some better batteries, and see if I can get more. These are 600 milliamp batteries, but they run this camera for a long time. Maybe because it's 20 volts, but these are only 600 milliamp. According to the pack, it's 550, but I know they're 600 because I've seen the inside of this one. So I want to make some with maybe, like 12 to 1600 milliamps with the, what kind of batteries am I thinking of? Not NiCad, nickel metal? Yeah. Any cameras in Oppenheimer? Ooh, that's crazy. The breaking down mid-showing. I think the tickets were 30 to 40 to, wow, but I needed to go 3 hours just to get to the theater. Holy cow, you're dedicated, Bonnie. This stream/demo is taking me back to the days studying film at college. I was the designated DP. And that's why I do a lot of this, pal. It takes me back. I just, there are some things, it's hard to explain to people that you just can't get rid of, even though I probably will never use, because it does take me back, and it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. I started film school in 1990, and we used Super 8 cameras, but one of my instructors had an Arri S, 16S, and I was just like, ah! I always wanted one, always, and I've had 2 now since then, and I still have my favorite one. So yeah, thank you, but it takes me back too. Believe me, this is a lot. This means a lot to me. So I have 2 of these battery packs for this, and you can see Batteries Plus in 2005 did the resell on that. Resell, C-E-L-L, not resell S. I'm going to show you one little quick thing that my wife made for me, which I also showed in my CP-16 video. But before I do, belts. They sell these belts for like 20 bucks a piece, or 10 or $20 a piece on eBay. Yeah, and I got suckered into that. So I bought one. This was probably 20 years ago when I bought this camera. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take it to a store, like I think it was a hydraulic store or something, someplace that sold all kinds of crazy things. And I brought it into them and I said, this is just an O-ring, right? And they said, yeah, it looks like it. And I said, well, can we match it? So he did, and it was whatever, $1 or $2 a belt. And I have since found the same thing on Amazon for like $5 or $8 or something for 5 of them, and they're just O-rings. What is it here? Oh, can you guys see that? You know what? If I can, I'll put this video goes, this live stream goes, it just gets posted automatically when it's over. But if I can, I'm going to put a link to these if I can find it. A 5-pack of these O-rings that fit and work perfectly as belts on your CP-16. I mean, I can't spend $20 a belt for a CP-16 belt, and you got to have a backup. Speaking of backup, Travis, remember when me and you put a huge rubber band inside your camera to try to get it running? Yeah, so I'll put a link to these if I can find it. I'll put a link in the description. That's the CP-16, and I know I forgot a bunch of stuff, but the handle right here also has an on-off right here on the side. There's no battery in it, but to get the handle to come down, you just unscrew the side here a little bit until these teeth are not engaged any longer, and then you move it to wherever you want. See there? I want it right there. Tighten it back down. Now you got your handle. Let's make sure it's tight. Now you got your handle. And you have a thumb button right here. And this is heavy. See your thumb button? Okay, I'll take the lens cap off. Hey, there you are. I will say they're relatively dim. I'm probably in mid. They're 180 degree. This is a 180 half moon shutter. Yeah, it's pretty dim, but you can see. I have a friend that he DP'd a movie for me that I produced, and it was a short film in 2010 or something like that, 2008, I don't know. But I met him in the 90s, I think, late 90s, and he was working at a dog track, and I was doing security there when I was an officer, and him and I got to talking, and I've always been into film, and he said, one of these days I'm just going to get a CP-16 and I'm going to shoot a zombie movie. And we sort of laughed about it, and we talked a little bit, and then I never saw him again, and it was like 20 years, and then suddenly I found him on Facebook or something, and we reconnected, and he ended up coming, and we did a movie together. And I asked him about that. I said, did you ever do that zombie movie? And he goes, yeah, as a matter of fact, I did. And he did a whole feature film with the CP-16 zombie movie. And it was fun. It was a neat, it was, you know, I mean, a lot of his storyline really wasn't for me personally, but I was just awed that he went out, bought a CP-16, and shot the movie in and around Daytona Beach, and followed his dream and shot a whole movie on it. So yes, these are great for independent feature films or short films or music videos. Bell and Howell IMO. Hey, I know somebody that's got one of those. Find some single sound 16mm film stock. And then there were some more cameras, but those were either too small to know what they were, or just too obscure or something like that. Bonnie, all I can say is keep all of your sources to yourself. If you're getting those kind of deals, most people aren't in Sweden on this stream, so yeah, and it worked too. You remember? Yeah, with the big rubber band. Nice find for the belts. Yeah, I just can't. I mean, I built enough stuff in my life to realize that this is nothing more than a very large O-ring. You could probably get away with a very thick, durable rubber band on there, although I don't think I would do it for very long. Hey Miguel, I'm awake. How are you doing? That is my stepdad. Hi, Michael B. I hope you're doing well. And he is. He is doing well. My stepdad is doing well. Tell Mom I said hello. They live in Indiana. He's my #1 fan. Remember Misery? My #1 fan. Miss you guys. There's Boot. You finally made it in. I was wondering if you're going to pop in. I saw your comment. Get out of bed. Until I get that Mac Mini, no camera. Yeah, none for you, old radios. How heavy are those battery packs, Mike? You know, not a lot. Maybe 8-9 ounces. But they're not bad. There's 12, 13. Anybody have a calculator on them? What's 20 divided by 1.2? 17. Is that 17? I don't know. I wasn't a math whiz, but that's how many batteries are in here. They're laid along the bottom, and then they're in between on the top. Chores. You know, Boot, we're just talking about this good old CP-16. So here's one thing I did do. If you've seen in a couple of videos I did, I mentioned I really hate putting tape, especially gaffer's tape, on any of my cameras. I'm kind of the fanatic. I'm the guy that when I have DVDs, I don't really like other people touching them, and my kids were never allowed to take them out of the cases because I don't want fingerprints on them, and I really, really, really take care of my equipment. So I don't want tape on it. I don't want to tape the door. I don't want to tape up. Most people tape up these magazines, which I totally understand, and I've done it myself. I taped up my K3 and peeled the tape off, and the paint comes off. So I asked my wife, who's really good on the sewing machine, if she could help me make something for this. So what we did is when you snap, by the way, these magazines go on really easy. You put the front in and you snap. Boom, it's on. Then you hook the belt on and you're ready to film. So what we did is very quickly designed, cut out, and it's not for noise reduction or anything like that, it was for light. This. Just a piece of black vinyl with the, the sort of that felt lined. Put a little piece of Velcro here on the end, and I gotta remember which, okay. Over the front like that, and then pull. And we have a kind of a little cutout here on the side. You see where it's kind of cut out? Where am I at? That was just to kind of help with the belt a little bit, but it's a really loose fit, so the belt doesn't really get affected. That, Velcro it down. Look at that, kids. Now it's light proof. And she made me 2 of those, so I keep one in my bag at all times. And no, that does not interfere with the belt at all. I've used it with this on it before. Doesn't hurt it whatsoever. Nice little mod that we added to it. Might be kind of cool to do a real thick, heavy coat for it as well. Like I said earlier, if you're in an environment where where it's just not 100%, well, what am I trying to say? Where you need total silence out of your camera. All right, where am I at? Yeah. Got an unopened filter, 80 to 200mm lens, and a Bell & Howell TQ2 16mm for, wow. Goodbye, Bonnie. I have a Filmboy24 with a 25 Canon lens on it. Haven't shot with it despite film being in the camera. Get your butt out there and film. I don't like the residue. I don't either. I just don't like tape on my cameras. I bought black and white reversal, then didn't want to pay for didn't feel brave enough to try on my own. Nice. It's a CP koozie. Yeah, Remjet, that's exactly what it is. Boot, don't be shy. Get out there. You know what you do? Buy some film and shoot a roll, but then go in the darkroom and cut part of it and try process. You know what you could do? You could process 5 feet of it in your Patterson tank. It's easy to make a little 16 millimeter reel. I did a video on that. You and your wife should make and sell those light blocking covers. You know, there's a couple things that we want to do. She helped me make a cover for my K3, but it needed some tweaking, and I want to put more soundproofing in the inside of it. It's time. It is just, I don't want to get on a time thing, but I have 2 children and a wife and lots going on, and my wife works full time and then some, so it's hard to get everything done, but I'm getting there. Yeah, I'm actually going to spend money on the 16 millimeter Ektachrome. That's a good way to spend money. And you know what I'm going to do? That reminded me, I want to do a video, and I had my K3 out yesterday, Super 16. I have some old 7285. I have a few rolls of the 100-foot rolls, like 3 or 4 rolls of the old Ektachrome 100D, old as in 10 years or so. And I want to shoot it in my K3, and I want to, if you process your own film, you know that when you process 100 feet of film, you need a minimum of 2 liters of chemical when you use the big 100-foot tanks. If you use the little tanks, you could probably get away with 1 liter. 1 liter and a little, you're pushing it, but if you use the tank that takes a 100-foot load, you need 2 liters. So, my theory, and I've never tried it, I tried it with black and white, and it worked fine, and I tried it with ECN2, and it was pretty much a disaster, but I want to try the Morse G3 tank, which is the, whoa, do that for a minute, and then stop quick, and do that for a minute, and then that for a minute, and that. You guys know the Morse tank goes back and forth and back and forth, but there's no remjet on 100D. That's why that was the big fail. I won't say big fail. I did get an image out of it, but it was tough. I kind of taped a sponge in there and ran my ECN film, my ECN2 film through the sponge and water, and kept changing the water and tried my best to get the remjet off of there first, but it didn't work perfect. But I want to try it with E6 chemicals, because you can do a whole 100 foot with 1 liter of chemicals in the Morse G3. So I've kind of been really pondering that, because the E6 chemicals are not cheap. It's like 50 bucks for 1 liter kit. I get everything at FPP. They're the cheapest and they're the most reliable, so that's where I get it. This is a big, I'm gonna use this. This is a big exception. I see the Etsy store on the horizon. An Etsy store, yeah. Well, you never know. My oldest daughter wants to start an Etsy store, but I don't know. I mean, there's so many things on the horizon that I would like to do, and like to. It just it's just time. I got a company that keeps bugging me. They want to send me something. They don't really 100% align with what I do, but they sell monitors, recording monitors. Problem is, I don't want to accept one just to do a video, and I'm not ready to do a video on it, and I don't know. It's not 100% what I'm into, so. I'll go back to it. Yes, boot. Get on it. What's the word on the Film Fest mic? You know, that's a good question, Manny. It's still on, as far as I know. It goes back to the time thing, but as of right now, I would like to have submissions. I've been working on my website, but as for now, I would like to have all submit. I promise I'm gonna have a full update at some point coming soon. But submissions by October 1st. That's all I really know at this point, but I'm getting there, I promise. Kind of want to get a C-mount to Konica AF mount adapter, because I have a 400 millimeter lens and 50 millimeters, and a M42 adapter was, oh man, that would be nice, Bonnie. Got to be careful with those sometimes though, because boy, if you're off just a millimeter, you know, from the film plane, sometimes it just doesn't work right. You won't get the focus, ever get it right. The film that is in my camera, is there any way to read the info on the roll without exposing it? Yeah, no. I mean, you can go in the dark and you can cut, but you really need to cut enough of it to where you can catch that edge code. It's tough, Boot. No, I don't know of a way to do it. There's nothing on it. And once you expose it, it just becomes a black piece of film that's worthless. But you can cut a piece and develop it. I would do at least 3 feet, and then look at the edge. Problem is, you're going to develop it, but how are you going to develop it if you're not sure what it is? If the emulsion is gray, it's a black and white film. If it's more on the brown side, then it's probably going to be a color film. Shoot will be on August 20th of enough time to buy the footage. Have you heard from John Corbett's people regarding the KFC? You know, I don't think it's John Corbett. I was so up in the air about that, but I just think he would be way too young. The KFC commercial, that's funny. And I did go through some of the other roles. I had a few other roles from the same batch, and I hate to say, most of them were not really exposed at all. So I don't think we're going to get much on the other ones in the way of hoping to find out what's going on. Top is probably exposed anyway from opening it and closing it quick, who knows? But yes, so take that, I would take part of that out of there and just try processing it. Like I say, if it's gray, if the emulsion is gray, then it's a black and white film. If it's not gray and it's more like tan or brown, then it's a color film or an old Kodachrome film. If it's old Kodachrome film, then you're going to have a hard time developing it anyway. I'm going to use my Bolex Rex 5 and Canon 1218. I want to see some footage from your Rex 5. KFC commercial. Yeah, I know, Mike. Gotta go. Good hanging out with you guys. Have a good one. Manny, we will see you next time, my friend. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. Guys, anyway, we're about an hour and 9 minutes in. So I'm going to wrap it up. I think I've covered everything. By the way, there was a spin-off of this. Same company, Cinema Products. You guys remember the Gizmo? GSMO? I always wanted a Gizmo, too. Gizmo. There's a couple on eBay right now, but they want a fortune for way more than they're worth. But they are the neatest looking gizmos. But if you see it, GSMO, do an eBay search for Gizmo. It's basically the same camera as this. And so is this. I want to show you something really quick. I had one of these and I loved it. It wasn't quite as quiet as that. Have you guys ever heard of the Frezzolini LW16? I had one of these as well. This is their maintenance. Oh, look at that. Oh, the shoulder brace. Look at that shoulder brace. Pretty much everything that the Frezzolini can do, the CP-16 can do, because that's it right there. Woo, woo, woo. And there's that Mickey Mouse ears. There's Travis's. An Italian version. Is that the Italian version? Is that what you're talking about? The Frezzolini. Quick question. Do you still have an idea what happened to my H16? Wait. Do you still have no idea on what have happened to my H... Bonnie, fill me in. I don't remember your question on your H16. I'm so excited because lots of family members will want to see. Yeah, I want to see it too. Didn't know from Analog Resurgence. Make a video on that. On the Frezzolini, I don't remember him doing that. Maybe he did. I think he did one on this, though, Bonnie. For the Film Fest, is post-processing in the computer allowed? Yes, absolutely. Best of luck on that 100th birthday shoot. Yes, the Fezzy seems more rare. It is. I kind of wish I didn't get rid of it. But I did. This is a 12-volt camera, by the way, and this is a 20-volt camera. Use the Sony video lens with it. Yes, that's a good lens. You know, the lens I like with my Bolex is the Sony 50mm f1.4. That's what's on it. I don't know if you guys can see it right now. I got a little lot of those at a garage sale. Believe it or not, it was about an hour away. I can't tell where I'm pointing, and there was 3 of them in there. I don't have too many Switch-R lenses either. I wish I did. The rewind feature. Oh yeah, the rewind feature. You have to disengage the motor. You know that, right, Bonnie? When you rewind, and you can only rewind a certain amount, or it's just going to bunch up in there. I can't remember how much they recommend, but it's not a lot, like 72 frames or something like that. But you do have to disengage the motor first. That little bleep. All right, you guys have seen enough of that. I don't think I have anything else to show you right now, and we are now at 1 hour and 12 minutes. Does anybody have anything else before we sign off? Before we say sayonara? Pick one of these up. You'll appreciate you'll appreciate it. Here comes this one. She's got her little ears on.
Hello.
My baby. We can't see you because of the... What is that? What is that?
A camera.
What kind? CP-16. This is a CP-16, and this is a Piper. Quite a few RX lenses for my 816 Rexes. Yeah, they're expensive, Mike. Dang. Smash that like button. Yeah, thanks, Jeffrey. Piper, tell them. Smash it. Smash it. Smash it. Cool camera later. Thank you, KD. Thanks for popping in. Thank you for everybody for popping in. Barry. I hope you guys will stop in next time. Next time will be... It'll be live stream number 15. That's landmark-ish. Thanks for the stream, indeed. Hey, thank you to everybody. I really appreciate it. You guys are the only reason I do this. Otherwise, I would just be sitting here. Are you doing the next go-around? Otherwise, I would just be sitting here looking at cameras by myself, maybe with Piper. Just buying film on Friday and putting computer. There you go. Boot, I'm glad you made it. Go back to sleep now. Guys, thanks so much, and we will see you on the very
Next go round.